The Love Life and Lose Weight podcast will teach you the art and science of changing your habits around food. If you know what to do, but can't figure out why you're just not doing it, this is the right podcast for you. I'm your host, Advanced Certified Weight and Life Coach, Heather Beardsley. I've helped hundreds of women just like you figure out how to think and eat like a normal eater, lose weight, and love life on the journey to goal weight and beyond. If I could give you advice of one skill set, if you could develop it, that would make everything you do around your weight goals easier, it would be to learn how to recover quickly. Welcome to episode 102. I'm your host, Heather Beardsley, Advanced Certified Weight and Life Coach. Welcome to spring. We are now in the spring season. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about why does one bad day turn into a bad week and the skill set of recovery, and how important it is for you to develop this skill set for lifelong weight management. It will make losing weight easier. It will make everything easier. There's really no application that you can't use this skill set for, even outside of your weight management. So first, I want to just, again, welcome you into spring and back to the podcast. We've officially transitioned into the new season, and this is one of my favorite times of year for reflection and reset. I think talking about rebounding or pivoting or recovering is like a great theme that goes along with the beginning of spring. Yesterday, I held my group coaching call for my private clients, my one-on-one clients, my small group clients, and anybody who has the planner. And we reviewed using our seasonal review worksheet in the planner. How did we do in the winter, right? We looked back at our goals, our 12-week goals that we set at the winter solstice, which was the beginning of winter, around the 21st of December, I think it was. And we looked at the data and we looked at the actions that we identified. We looked at our habit trackers and we got really clear with our information and our data to understand whether or not you are getting results for your 1 to 3 goals that you set for the winter season. And then based on whether you're getting results or not, we know then how to structure spring. So seasonal planning is something that helps you get a feedback loop about the previous 12 weeks and make adjustments depending on what kind of results you're getting. So if you are getting results, hopefully you're just rinsing and repeating and you're looking at your calendar for the next 12 weeks and you're making any kind of adjustments that might need you to adjust. Like, for example, I have a client who is lucky enough to be able to spend a whole month in Scotland traveling. So we talked about, her spring plan and her goals for weight loss will probably not happen in the month that she is traveling. She's adjusted that month to be more of a maintenance month. And then the other 2 months, she'll go back to her fat loss goals. So we worked that into her plan. We're not just like having aspirational goals that we are, slapping on to every single season without really considering what does life look like for me with my habits right now, right? And what needs practice and what needs experimentation, and how do I adjust my goals going forward, given the life that I expect and also things that I don't expect that could come up, right? So this is a benefit that I give to come and join me with seasonal group coaching for my private clients and my planner owners. So if you want to join me on some of these calls, you need to, at a minimum, purchase a follow-through planner. It has my whole weight management program in there, even if you're not going to use the planner. Having my program and being able to coach with me 4 times a year is probably really worth it. And it's a beautiful planner anyway. So if you want to take a look at that, you can visit my website at hbeardsley.com/planner. If you want to work with me, you can always email me at support@hbeardsley.com, or you could just go to my website and click work with me to learn more. Okay, so hopefully you've taken some time before you move ahead into spring to look back at your data, look at the goals you set, ask yourself the first question: am I getting results? Number one. And number two, am I actively experimenting with habits if I'm not getting results? And what do I need to do? And hopefully, you've got all the information for how to troubleshoot inside of the planner. That's there for you, even if you can't work with me one on one. Okay, so for today's episode, I just took a look at, and this is what we're going to be doing throughout the spring season. I'm going to be talking to you about some of the most common things I see with my coaching. These are themes that come up with a lot of my clients that are very common. And I want to share my insights with you so that you can kind of coach yourself, and hopefully get some results into some of these deeper issues that are oftentimes only revealed with coaching. So, yeah, this one sounds like I was doing great. And then I, got distracted and I didn't plan for a week, or we went on vacation and I never took my planner. And now here I am 2 weeks later and I feel like I'm just going backward and everything fell apart. Have you ever said that? Or sometimes my clients say, like, I don't understand. I was on track. I was being so good. And then one day I had an overeat and now it's 5 days later or it's a week later, right? I don't know what happened. And what's frustrating is that, you always have good intentions. We just don't know how to recover from a misstep or frustration or disappointment. We're not really told how to do that. One day turns into 3 days, 3 days turns into five. I call this like the fuck it loop. And especially with former restrictive dieters like me, like all my clients, right? When the system that we use to lose weight is really hard, we tend to have longer fuck it loops where we just throw off everything that we were trying to do because it was so hard to sustain. Might be okay for a week, might even be okay for a month. But there's something about a system that is too hard, that's unsustainable, where your inner self will really resist going back to it. And that's what's going on here. Usually, this is not really true that how I teach weight management is hard. It's just that the judgment my clients have over less than ideal follow through or disappointing actions, or like everybody has overeats, even I have overeats, right? Is that you haven't learned how to be compassionate and stop judging the shit out of yourself. That will feel so bad that your inner self, like if you could personify that little person who lives inside of you, who wants to avoid like that critical inner voice or that judgment, she just doesn't even want to participate. So this is really what this has to do more than anything else is number one, to remember that if you're practicing integrative weight management, which is how I teach weight management, remember that you get to eat the food that you choose to eat. There is no good food, there is no bad food, right? There's just choices that we have around food and habits that we have around food. And sometimes, I mean, even so called normal eaters, sometimes like oopsie overeat. But what they don't do is beat the shit out of themselves and judge on themselves, dogpile on themselves for a misstep. They just kind of shrug their shoulders and say, whoa, that was weird. I wish I hadn't done that. And then they move on. So, and why are former restrictive dieters so hard on themselves? Well, because we've turned in on ourselves. Why? Because we're asking ourselves to be hungry all the time, restrict, count calories, only eat good food, right? Be basically inhuman. And then, we see people who are, their weight is regulated. Their weight is normalized. And sometimes they overeat, but they are not trying hard, right? But we turn in on ourselves. We just say, no, 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 it has to be hard for me, right? I have to be suffering in order to lose weight. And that's what I'm here to share with you is that there is no suffering required. Your ability to recover from a misstep is literally a skill set that you need to give to yourself to minimize the negatives, recover, and keep moving on so that you don't quit, so that your fuck it cycles start to shrink. The more that you can work on actively recovering from your own disappointments, the quicker you can get back to what we know works and the less of an impact being in a fuck it cycle has on your weight. Okay. So it's not a food problem. This is a thinking pattern issue. Specifically, this is a combination of perfectionistic thinking, all or nothing thinking, and in what we call cognitive behavioral work, this is called a cognitive distortion. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Let me explain what I mean. So let me walk you through what actually happens. So you have a day where you overeat or you go off plan or things don't go the way that you intended, right? Something like that. Objectively, it's one event, but you have a brain that doesn't see it that way. What you make it mean is I blew it again, or you're such a fuck up. I mean, the things that my clients say when I say, what does it sound like in your brain when you have this kind of disappointment? I mean, it's so mean. It like breaks my heart. And some of this intensity with negative self talk can be very, very like almost like emotionally abusive. But even if it's not intense like this, it doesn't feel good to the part of you who hears it and feels judged. So that what we make our mess ups mean is everything because you've moved from objectively describing what happened. I overate or I didn't work out or whatever it was to I'm off track. I messed up. I was bad. The week is ruined. And once your brain catastrophizes like that, does that all or nothing thinking, moves into this idea of like perfection is required. Like if I wasn't perfect, it can't work for me, then there's no reason to keep trying. So, of course, you're going to opt out. You just continue with the behavior because how do you win with that? The brain, there's a logical part of you that knows I'm never going to be perfect around food. And that's why I teach weight loss the way that I teach it. I bake in a certain number of overeats that you can have during the week. We experiment with this so that you know you don't have to be perfect. And all my clients lose weight while sometimes overeating. So, this is the trap door that lets you out of this impossible situation about making messing up mean that you fucked up and that you know you can't get your goal that week. And then you opt out. Now you're in the fuck it cycle, the fuck it distracted cycle. So, basically, your brain goes, well, we ate the cookie. So, obviously, we're living here now. It's easier to live here than to try to go back and be perfect. So the remedy is to always respond to imperfect actions around food with, well, I don't have to be perfect around food. I just need to learn how to make the impact of what happened a little bit less. And if you just stay there, then you will be able to recover. You'll be able to pivot and you'll be able to get right back to what you know works. So there is the part of the screw it spiral. It looks like one overeating event, negative self talk, a loss of control, feeling like you're out of control, and like continued overeating. This is like all, these are all parts of like what becomes like this tornado spiral of fuck it events. It's never caused by the food. It's caused by what you make your perceived mess up around your food mean about you. So, this is a habit of thinking that we need to change. We need to change how we address disappointment and lack of follow through. How are we going to talk to ourselves? What are we going to do to encourage ourselves to keep going? So, while I'm talking about this, I have tools for this for you inside my follow through planner. So, if you want more help with this, I encourage you to go to my website, hbeardsley.com/planner, and just check out the follow through planner. Even if you don't have a tablet and you're not a digital planner, you'll get my entire program and you'll be able to get some of these tools that I use with my clients. I have a coupon code that's good through the spring. You can use code SPRING20 for 20% off the follow through planner. Okay, back to the episode. Okay, next step, we're going to reframe. So instead of saying I blew it or I fucked it up, I messed it up, we replace that thinking with data driven thinking. So we're going to describe the event. That was one overeat, right? That was one disappointment, right? What's next? We don't load it with drama. We don't make it mean something terrible about ourselves, something moral. No global conclusions about what's possible for us. Just that X happened. You're going to write it like a newspaper reporter writes it, right? Just describe what happened in as clinical terms as you can, not using emotional or moralistic language. This is the doorway to recovering quickly. Next, your only job is to return to your next decision because you cannot change what is in the past. You can only change what you do in this moment. And if you beat the shit out of yourself after a disappointment, you are not going to be able to recover to the next best action as well as if you note it, write it down in your data, maybe make a plan for next time, and then move on. Not tomorrow, not Monday, not after you reset, not after another overeat, but like immediately. Choose one action that you make it mean exits you out of your disappointment. Maybe you just drink a glass of water. Maybe you say, okay, I'm disappointed. I had an overeat. It was unplanned, but I'm going to wait for hunger before I have my next meal. And then you just get on with it, right? You just move on. So this means you're only always one decision away from being back on track. Isn't that nice to know? And the faster you go back on track after disappointments, and we all have them, the less momentum this negative, fuck it, distracted cycle has on your weight management throughout the course of the year. So after the day is over, instead of judging if you've had a disappointment, you ask, what happened? What was I thinking? What could I do a little bit better next time? And this is how you learn. This is how you practice the habit of recovery, not through perfection, but through feedback, through honest evaluating what happened, giving yourself constructive feedback that doesn't feel bad, and then permission to move on. So if you've been stuck in the pattern where one day turns into a bad week, I want you to know there's nothing wrong with you. You're not failing. You're just experiencing a very common negative pattern of thinking. Once you learn how to interrupt that pattern and how to recover, the art of recovery, everything starts to shift. In the next episode, I'm going to talk to you about something very closely related to this, how you can know exactly what to do and still not do it. And if you want tools to help you in real life, you can follow the planner again at 8. You can find the planner and me to how to work with me at hbeardsley.com. So come and visit me on Instagram. I love to hear from you all. You can find me at Thrive in Midlife, and you can find the Instagram for the follow through planner at the follow through planner on Instagram. Okay, stay focused, and we'll talk soon. So long. Hey, if this episode resonated for you, then let's connect. Visit hbeardsley.com/subscribe. That's HBEARDSLEY.com/subscribe and become a VIP subscriber. You'll learn how to work with me. You'll get 2 free gifts, access to exclusive VIP content, and get a discount on the digital follow-through planner.